Now let's turn our attention to Africa, specifically to the Ivory Coast in the west. This country is home to about 29 million people, along with French military bases. But that last part is set to change because the French troops are leaving. Paris has lost its last military base in the country and by proxy, another stronghold in the region. After Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, Chad and Senegal, the French military has been forced to leave the Ivory Coast. What does that mean for France's African ambitions? And why has the Ivory Coast expelled French troops? Our next report tells you.
This is Côte d'Ivoire, or in English, the Ivory Coast. This West African country is a former French colony. It became independent in the year 1960. This year, it decided to kick out French troops from the country. It told the French forces to withdraw, and now, the Ivory Coast has finally done it. It has officially taken control of the last remaining French military base in the country, and shut the door on French military ambitions in Africa. But the Ivory Coast insists that it remains a staunch French ally. While the forces will withdraw, some 80 French servicemen will continue to stay in the country. Why? To apparently advise and train the Ivorian military.
France is transforming its presence. France is not disappearing. 80 French soldiers, forming the core of an inter-army military detachment, will become, in a way, part of the French military for disciplinary needs and for training purposes.
This act marks a new stage in the relationship of friendship and strategic cooperation between our two nations.
But this is a major blow to Paris. It has lost yet another stronghold in Africa. After Mali in 2022, Niger and Burkina Faso in 2023, Chad in 2024, Ivory Coast, now, in 2025, and Senegal by the end of this year. Now, French military presence in Africa will soon be limited to only two countries. In Djibouti with 1,500 troops, and Gabon with 350 soldiers. France has been asked to leave more than 70% of African countries where it had troop presence, which is a far cry from its troop stations since colonial times. You see, France was once a major colonying power. It maintained stronghold in West and Central Africa. It controlled several countries in the region, and by proxy, millions of African people. But during the 1960s the empire broke up. Though, France maintained its presence in the region by maintaining control of the military bases. For decades, it stationed thousands of troops across the region, but a few years ago a broader change erupted and transformed the region's engagement with Paris. It started when three countries were hit by military coups: Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. As a string of governments toppled, ruling military juntas replaced them and they started kicking the French troops away. Soon, other former French colonies joined in, with sharp criticism of France. Partially, for political gains, the Ivory Coast is heading to polls this year, in October. While there is no formal decision yet, their president, Alassane Ouattara, has signaled that he wants to run again, for a fourth term. So he may be leaning into the anti-France sentiment to rally public opinion. But either way, this is a setback for Paris, which has, for decades now, maintained military bases across Africa, to continue its influence over the region. So looks like Paris' colonial pet project in Africa is finally dismantling.
Merci beaucoup. Hi, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Namaste, Mr. President.
Bharat Kelogon, Komeri Namaste.
How many people generally follow you in interviews?
Typically in a month, we have viewers up to 150 million. That's more than twice the population of France. And in the last 2 years, we had 3 billion viewers. So I say, Laurent, this is your chance to be famous. You're on Firstpost. One word to describe your equation with Prime Minister Modi.
Amitié.
As India and France work together, are you creating a new era of non-alignment in the technology space?
India is a training superpower. 1 million engineers a year, more than all of Europe and the US combined. So we have that partnership. We have a partnership on the environment and the economy. We also have civilian nuclear programs, and that is something we've developed far beyond the France-India relationship. So we want to work together on AI.
And then comes China with its DeepSeek, creating models at a fraction of the cost. Did that innovation take you by surprise? Did that breakthrough make you sit up and think, what did the Chinese do and how?
But what did DeepSeek do? They took everything that was already available from the last AI model and then they recalibrated it.
So are you going to ban Chinese AI in France?
So we don't have this American approach of banning tech because of where it comes from.